Good day everyone, praise be Jesus and Mary. So the topic that we have chosen is about the handwriting characteristics and other identifying features. So writing habits. Writing by all its thousands of peculiarities in combination is the most personal and individual thing that a man does that leaves a record which can be seen and studied. So this is what constitutes individuality in handwriting. So as humans, as individuals, we are all unique or peculiar when it comes to handwriting. So there are handwritings that are neat and clean, and there are those not. So there are two characteristics of writing habits, the general and individual characteristics. So when we say the general class or characteristics, these characteristics refers to those habits that are part of basic writing system or which are modifications of the system of writing found among large group of rights that have only slight identification value. So mostly these general class characteristics for an instance, way back on our elementary days, we are taught on how to write the alphabets. So in generality, we are almost the same when it comes to the stroke of writing. For example, in writing A, we have to start from the center, going to the left down, and back again to the center, going to the right down, and then a line in the center. So we are almost the same when it comes to the stroke, or in the general term, it is the basic writing system. So the second characteristic is the individual characteristics. So they are characteristics which are the result of the writer's muscular control, if kurog kagkamot or dili. Next is the coordination, the age. Of course, there is a big difference when you are a young and the old. Pag bata ka, dili kurog kayo mong kamot, but pag tiguang na, mostly mga kurog kailang agi. The health, of course, when you're healthy, then you're in a good state, but if you're not, then lain gid imuhang kuan panglihok. And nervous temperament, the frequency of writing, the personality, and the character. So there is this notion that they say nga kung pangit imong agi means hugawan ka. So ingon sila na nga mo reflect na kuno sa agi ang imuhang kinaiya, the personality and the character. They are found in writing movement, form and design of letters, the motor coordination, the shading, the skill, the alignment, the pen pressure, kung pinaduot ka magsulat or dili, the connection, the pen hold, kung unsaon nimo imuhang pamaagi sa paghawid. Ako kay ingon ani ko mohawid sa akuhang ballpen. So wala ka ballpen, but imagine nga na ako'y gihawiran. The rhythm, the disconnections or pen lifts between letters, kanang kanusa ka mo pause kanang pag halimbawa straight imong pagsulat iya the moment nga arsahon nimo imuhang ballpen. The speed, so kakapaspasa, the slant as a writing habit, the proportion of letters as an individual characteristic or habit, the quality of stroke or line quality, the variation and muscular control or motor control. So di gid malikayan no nga naay mga tao nga nice kayo ilahang agi ug naapoy uban nga medyo apiki. So sa ako way back my high school, maut jud kog agi, but nag-join ko sa journalism, so gi-train gid ang ako ang agi. So in one day I have to write at least 4 articles. So one paper akong ginasulatan, wala na siya lines. In that way, ma-practice na ako akong kamot, akong muscular control, kay kurog jud kay kog kamot. Kinahanglan ako makita kung asa na ako maplastar ang ako ang pulso while magsulat ko, nga manindot ang ako ang agi. So I think that's the individual characteristics.
Types of handwriting according to muscular control. First, Loose writing. This is characterized by too much freedom of movements and lack of regulation. This is noticed especially in tall letter movements. Second, restraint writing. There is lack of freedom and inhibited movements. It gives you the impression that every stroke was made with greater difficulty. This writing is small and there is distortion of letter forms with may lead to illegibility.
Next is the indication of speed and slow writing. Now, so in indication of speed writing, it composed of 11 features. First, the indication of speed writing is smooth, unbroken stroke and rounded forms, frequent sign or tendencies to the right. Next, mark uncertainty as the location of the dots of small letter I and G and crosses of small letter T. Increase spontaneity of words or small letter T considered with the following words. Letters curtailed or degenerated almost to illegibility towards the end of the words. Wide writing width of letters is greater than the connecting spaces adjoining it. Great differences in emphasis between upstroke and downstroke. Make simplification of letters, especially capital letters. Rising line, increase pen pressure, increase in the margin to the left at the beginning of the line. Now that is the parts of indication of speed reading. No, so indication of speed reading, it is very useful in conducting investigation. No, okay, as an investigator, you should be have a um, ability that imong paspas imong pagunahon na, of course paspas pod imong pagsulat to record upon gathering the data.
So next is indication of slow writing. So in the indication of slow writing, it composed 9 features. So first is wavering forms and broken strokes. Second, frequent signs or tendencies to the left. Third is conspicuous, certainly as to the location of the dots of small letter I, G or T crosses with scarcely perceptible deviation from the intended direction. Next is frequent pauses by meaningless blobs, angles, divided letters, and retouches. Then, careful execution of detail of letters toward the end of names. Then, narrow writing. Then, next is no difference in emphasis in upstroke and downstroke. Then, ornamental or flourishing connections. Then, last is sinking lines. So, when we say slow writing, um, is an approach to writing that uses a step-by-step structure to create a short text or paragraph. So, so similar to a writing frame, a teacher will give specific writing prompts or instructions as to what grammar, language, or punctuation features to include in its sentence. So, for example, is children could be asked to include a semicolon in a sentence or use a simile in a sentence.
Good day. I'm assigned on the examples of common characteristics and types of writing. So, first is the ordinary copybook form. So, what is this ordinary copybook form? So, it is the way of copying such things in the book, or what we see in the book, like ginagma, or like tinagsa, or because usually in the way of book form is tinagsa gid siya ng ang uban kay nangaawato nato ba kanang ang A imbes paana lay biya sa libro og sa kwan mo ng ordinary book form. So example for ordinary book form is the letter A, letter small a padiya, then ang sa book form padiya tong nay-ana dayon. So second is usual systematic slant. So what is this usual systematic slant? So when we say slant, it is the angle of such way of our handwriting. Ang uban pinatakilid, ang uban pina-straight, ang uban manlapas sa blue to blue nga line. So it is the usual systematic slant is like in the book form that it is a usual systematic slant or dili lang kay takilid, anong sakto lang kay nga slant sa way of form of your writing. So third is the ordinary skill of proportion of ratio. So in this third characteristic of type of example of type common characteristic, so the ordinary scale of proportion, so unsa or how big our way of or our penmanship is. So dagko ba ang uban kay kagmay kay litra halos di nato makita. As what I've observed sa akong mga classmates before, na uban dagko kayo, ang uban kagmay kay nga litra nga halos di makita, ang uban halos di mabasa, because we do have different penmanship. Then the last one is the conventional spacing. So what is this conventional spacing? So spacing, from the spacing, there are type of spacing, double spacing, or katong dikit ra kayo. It depends on the writer or the person or how he write on his own. So as far as technology was developed nowadays, so there is a we called encoded, that it is a ordinary copybook form because encode lang, dili na ang uban dili na mo ang uban man gud dili na mabasa kayo like mga different penmanship. So unlike encoded nga computerized, so mas dali na to mabasa ang kwan. Pero we focus on the examples of common characteristics of how on writing. So that's all. Thank you.
How individual characteristics are acquired. First is outgrowth of definite teaching. So just like me, based on my personal experience, my handwriting was being trained. So way back in my high school, just like what I said earlier, that gitrain ko sa journalism. From pangit kay akong agi, murag kahig jud sa manok akong sinumpay tanan ng nilad kay sa ngata. Kay gitrain man ko, I have to write at least 4 articles each day. So bond paper pagid ang ginagamit na kong sulatan. I have to find my sa asa napit akong pulso nga makontrol na ako ang kakurog sa kamot kurog gikog kamot para nga manindot nako ang ako ang agi. So second, result of imitation. So na ako'y idol kisa una nga nindot gid siya agi nga gusto nako awaton niyang agi. At the end of the day, dili man ingon nga perfect akong pagkaawat, but at least almost na nakakuha kong technique sa iyaha nga uy nani di ang pagsulat para manindot akong agi. So third is accidental condition or circumstances, na mga uncertain nga mga panghitabo nga nindot imong agi ug napay usahay dili. Fourth is the expression of certain mental and physical traits of the writer as affected by education, by environment, and by occupation. So kung gubot imong ingon sila, kanido kunong mga bright, paspas kina sila mo load og idea. Sa kapaspas silang idea, ang ilahang agi, maot na kayo. Sila ray makasabot sa ilang notes. Ingon ana ilahang, na notion nga ingon ana. Affected by education. Pag professional, kinahanglan tarungon sa nato ang agi. Just like sa mga teachers, nindot ilahang agi samot na sa ilahang lesson plan, kana sila lesson plan. By environment and by occupation. Kining mga architect, o bisag kan mga eskwela pa lang, kana sila train na kay na ilahang agi. Nganong kasagara mga architect mga nindot kay sila agi kay well eskwela pa sila naa sila plate nga ginahimo. Sa ilahang plate kinahanglan nila label nga kinahanglan na sila gina-follow nga stroke, no, from basic to kanang hantud nga mahimo na sila master na gyud ana.
Example of the sum of the individual characteristic. First, hawk to the right and hawk to the left. Second, shape, position, size, and angle of eye, that's the crossing. Third, idiosyncrasies, behavioral attributes. The definitions of idiosyncratic is quicker or peculiar of or the temperament which is unique to an individual. For example, of an idiosyncratic person is someone who does a lot of out of the ordinary things. Fourth, bulbs and distinctive initial final pin pressure. Fifth, embellishment, added stroke, and free movement endings. 6. Abbreviations of letters. There is no common abbreviations of the word letters. But if the need to abbreviate the word arise, a common sense approach would be let. If you want to make it plural, simply add on is. 7. Simple and compound curve and graceful endings. 8. Levered movement preceding ragged lines. 9. Terminal shading and focusful endings. 10. Presence and influence of Regine writing with the introductions of Greek. A.
Points to consider in examining extended writing. Anonymous trait position of letters. First is uniformity. Does the question writing have smooth rhythm and flowing appearance? So, kinahanglan imong ginasulat uniform siya ug smooth rhythm flowing appearance sa imong pagsulat kay mo na importante kay na siyang uniform siya. Number 2 is irregularities. Does the question writing appears awkward, forms slowly drawn? So, kinahanglan hinay-hinay lang gyud ang pagsulat para mas nice ang result sa imong gisulat. Third is size and proportion. Determine the height of overall writing as well as the height of the individual stroke in proportion in each other. So dapat imong tan-awon kung pareha ba kadagko ang imong gisulat, pareha siya ang iyang size, pareha kadagko og ang kataas niya yang height sa imong gisulat para mas tsada tan-awon. Fourth is alignment. So kinahanglan gid align horizontally
aligned or curving uphill or downhill o nagpataas na ba o nagpaubos imong agi kinahanglan straight lang yun. Number 5 is spacing. So determine the general spacing between letters, spacing between words, wide of the left and right margin, paragraph, indentation. So dapat ang spacing sa word o letter imo ginang i-maintain sa left or right sa imong ginasulat. 6 is degree of start. So tan-aw nimo kung uniform magid sila or dili para maka imong makuan ang imong ginasulat. Mas tsada mo gitong uniform siya para mas kuan ang result. 7 is formation and design of the letters, bars, dots, loops, circle formation. So dapat proper formation ka sa mga letters or sa mga sign na imong ginakuan, mga asam hunong, mga buntok, mga inana, dapat bantayan gina nimo. Number 8 is initial connecting and final stroke. So kinahanglan kung unsay na imong nasugdan sa permero, dapat pareha ra japon nimo sa pinakaulahis, dili gid na dapat maglahi-lahi kay lain mo kay tan-awon.
Handprinting. The procedure and the principle involved are similar to that of cursive handwriting. In block capital and manuscript writings, personal individual rest principally in design, selections individual letter, construction, size ratios, and punctuations habits. The initial step in handwriting examination is to determine whether the question's handwriting and standards were accomplished with first, a fluency of movement and a certainty of executions indicative of a familiarity with measures or skill in handwriting of conversely. Second, a conscious mental efforts and non-rhythmic execution denoting either unfamiliarity with or dis in the subject handwriting.